If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart. Let's get to it, New York.
Well, as it turns out, the Knicks can indeed lose a basketball game. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast where we are talking about the NBA Finals. We are talking about Game 3, and the Knicks' 13-game playoff winning streak has been snapped. The Spurs go into Madison Square Garden, an environment that was in a frenzy for a lot of different reasons. A frenzy when it comes to just the excitement of the game, a frenzy when it comes to some of the stuff happening off the court, when it comes to Donald Trump making an appearance at this game. Spurs able to handle all the pressure that came with staring down the barrel of going down 0-3. They go in, they take care of business. They beat the Knicks 115-111 in a game that in many ways it feels like it's the way the series is going to go. Is you're going to see a series that's going to be nip and tuck. A couple possessions in the fourth quarter are probably going to decide a lot of these games. If you're a Knicks fan and you're expecting, more of those 30 and 40 and 50-point blowouts that you saw against the Hawks and against the Sixers and against the Cavaliers, I don't think this is going to be a series for that. I think this is going to be a series that's going to be played in the margins, and the Knicks did enough in the first two games to come away with wins on the road. They did not do enough in Game 3 to come away with this one, and we're going to talk all about it. We'll hear from some guys as well. We'll hear from head coach Mike Brown, who had some very, very interesting comments regarding this game. Not just with the play on the court by the Knicks, but also the officiating, which we'll talk about a ton on this show. We'll also hear from head coach Mitch Johnson of the San Antonio Spurs about what went right for the Spurs in this one. We'll also hear from Victor Wembanyama, who had a pretty big bounce-back performance, 32 points in this one. And we'll hear from Josh Hart and Karl-Anthony Towns of the New York Knicks. So plenty of interesting voices to hear from. This is Orange and Blue Bloods. Of course, if you are listening to this podcast, be sure to do me a favor. Always subscribe to the channel. You can hear Orange and Blue Bloods wherever you get your podcast, whatever platform you're on. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the auto download feature. And if you can give me a 5-star review, all of those things help the channel grow. So if you can do that, we greatly appreciate that. Also, if you are watching these episodes get posted to YouTube. So if you go to our YouTube channel, New Generation Media is where Orange and Blue Bloods full video episodes live. So make sure you head over there if you want to watch these episodes. You also can get short videos from these episodes on Orange and Blue Bloods at New Generation Media. So get over to the channel, subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment in the comment section what you thought about Game 4. Again, all those things help the channel grow. And of course, follow your boy, EJ_Stewart on X, Action EJ on Instagram and TikTok, EJ205 Prep on Buzzer. So Knicks lose 115-111. This was a game that really, I think, in many ways, and I agree with Coach Brown, was about the Spurs setting the tone. They set the tone in the first quarter. They were the much more physical team. They were quicker to the ball, and they were quicker in attacking the basket and getting to the paint. They also set the tone physically. Their defense in this game was phenomenal. Their defense was imposing, and it did not allow the Knicks to really be comfortable for much of this night. It felt like really OG Anunoby was the only guy who seemed to get into a consistent rhythm throughout this game. Everyone else, it was a struggle bus, and that's what the Spurs could do. They're a great defensive team, and they set the tone in the first quarter with how they started. They got up to a double-digit lead in the first quarter, and despite getting kind of boat race in the second quarter where the Knicks had a 17-point turnaround, they go up at halftime, up 7. Spurs coming in the third quarter again, set the tone, take the lead back in the third quarter, go with the lead heading into the fourth quarter. Them setting the tone in both the first and third quarter I thought was huge in this one. And they got some heroic performances on their side. This is what the finals is about, right? You see the Knicks, they get their historic performances. Your Mikal Bridges' game 2, Landry Shamet's game 2. And now the Spurs had their turn. This was once again about the stars in many ways. Victor Wembanyama, again, 32 points. This is also a huge game for Stephon Castle. I thought Stephon Castle, he might have played the best game of his career. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that's been mouthing off quite a bit throughout this series about how much better he thinks the Spurs are than the Knicks. And he looked like the best guard on the floor. He had 23 points, he shot 8-14 from the field. His defense on Jalen Brunson, while Brunson had his best offensive performance, his defense once again was stellar. Stephon Castle was awesome, and he was awesome on both ends of the floor. So he was huge in this one, and those were the two top guns for San Antonio in this game. And we always say the adage, role players help you at home, stars take you home on the road. This was one for the Spurs where their stars and Wembanyama and Castle, and while Fox had a rough shooting night, he hit a massive jump shot late in the fourth quarter that put them up 2 scores that made it difficult for the Knicks to come back late in the game. So the stars of the Spurs were different. They made the plays. The Knicks stars were not able to make enough shots and keep it close enough in the fourth quarter to make a run. Jalen Brunson did hit a big three. OG Anunoby did hit a big three. But at that point, they were playing catch-up, and the Spurs had already taken control of the game. So let's hear from head coach Mike Brown. And I think it's very important to hear from the head coach because he's going to point out something that I'm a little torn about. Because this was a game where the free throw discrepancy was massive. Spurs in this one for a total took 32 free throws. They took 24 in the second half. The Knicks in this game in total took 22 free throws. They only took 8 in the second half. That is something that Mike Brown is not happy about.
I never thought I'd be in the NBA Finals and see a team get 24 free throw attempts in the second half to another team's 8. And I don't think I complain much about officials or the fairness when it comes to the free throw attempts.
And Mike Brown was not done. Here is more from Mike Brown saying that if the free throw discrepancy is going to be like this, the Knicks are going to be in for a long series.
San Antonio is a great team. They're a great team. Okay? It's going to lower our odds big time if we play game 4 and in the second half they get 24 free throw attempts to our 8. And maybe we were fouling. But they fouled too.
I'm torn on this. So the officiating once again in this game was horrendous. I thought that this was another game. If I'm comparing it from the last game was like cartoonishly bad with like a technical that was crazy, a like offensive foul on a cut that was great. Like there were a couple of cartoonishly bad calls in the last one where maybe this one didn't have these cartoonish bad calls. But so I don't know if I'd say it's quite as bad as game 2, but this was another really poorly officiated game. The NBA has a tough deal because so much of what we've heard, and I think the NBA is trying to listen to its fans, and I do appreciate it from that standpoint, is they want players to be allowed to play defense. They want guys to be allowed to be physical, and they don't want the officials to be calling ticky-tack stuff, which I think most fans can agree with, and that's what the fans have been telling them. And the problem I have seen with how the officials have officiated the San Antonio Spurs is it just seems uneven. And I'm actually going to go back to the series that maybe if you listen to this podcast, maybe you weren't dialed into the Oklahoma City Thunder series against the Spurs quite as much. But that series was a lot about how the Spurs were trying to play physical and they weren't allowed to. Because when you play the Thunder and you're playing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he's such a master at tricking the referees into fouls that if you looked at him the wrong way, they were calling a foul. And I don't know if this is like a pendulum swing where now that they've gone away from that series, the refs are like, all right, well, now no one's on the court. It's like Shea. So now we're not going to call as many fouls on the Spurs. But I thought, and I was watching this game, and I'm yelling at my TV during the game, I just thought that there was so much holding, grabbing away from the ball. At a certain point, I was like, man, the Knicks just need to start holding and grabbing as well, because if they're not going to call it, then what difference does it make? And then sure enough, the second half, they started calling it only on the Knicks. So from that standpoint, it had to be pointed out because it's been terrible. Like there has been a obvious discrepancy and favorable officiating for the Spurs. The only reason why I'm torn about Mike Brown addressing it in this way is because if I'm the San Antonio Spurs, I'm playing a team that's won 13 games in a row. I just beat them, finally, after losing 2. I'm already got some confidence now. I'm starting to get a little bit of mojo, and I'm looking for anything to latch on to see a sign of weakness on that side after we got our first W. And then I hear the coach immediately pointing to the referees. I feel like, okay, we got something here. They're already complaining that how we're playing is bothering them to the point where they feel like they have to make this, statement about how the refereeing is not being fair. Now, to Mike Brown's credit, I played part of the clip just to tell you the full content of the clip. He starts the clip saying, "I want to be clear: the San Antonio Spurs outplayed us, and Mitch Johnson outcoached us, and it was they did a great job, and they won the game. They took the game." He did say that, so it's not like he didn't give the Spurs any credit. But, again, the players aren't going to look for, or the other side's not looking for your full press conference. They're looking at the sound bites. They're looking at what the headlines are going to be coming out of this game. And no question about it, Mike Brown's decision to push that red button and talk about the referees at this game is going to be the headline coming out of this game from the Knicks side in the post game. And if I'm the Spurs, that actually would give me some energy. That would give me some confidence. Say, okay, I know if we get in these guys' grill again, if we get physical again, we can knock them off their game to a point where the only way they feel like they can stop us is to get help from the referees. So it's a double-edged sword. Now, if you're a head coach, you do this because you want to shed light to the fact that the officiating feels like, uneven, and you want to shed light on the idea that, hey, maybe if I say this, they'll come into the next game with that in the back of their head, and they say, okay, we got to make sure we call it more even because maybe Coach Brown has a point. So it's a decision, right? I just feel like I've seen Mike Brown pretty much all year, and I've listened to so many of his press conferences, and I've watched him all year. He has made it a point, really, to make it that the Knicks should know that they can beat anybody regardless of what's happened to referees. So he doesn't like to complain about the referees. And he said there, like, I don't like to complain about the referees, but, and then he went to that point. I just feel like if you've been doing something one way the entire time, when you switch in the biggest moment of the season from your approach the entire season, which is that regardless of what's happening to referees, we control our own destiny. I do wonder what kind of message that sends to the players. I almost feel like I would have preferred, I know it may sound kind of counterintuitive because, you may give up a point in the game as opposed to here where you're maybe just going to get fined and there's no points exchange. I actually would have preferred him getting teed up in this game. Like, I actually thought Josh Hart, he got that technical foul in the first quarter when Cornette inadvertently bumped into him and he got up and shoved him, whatever. I was happy Josh did that. I was happy Josh got that tech. I just think the team was sleepy. I thought the team was sleepy and sloppy and not into the game, and they needed something to rile them up. And, yeah, start an altercation. Start something. Like, I think they needed that. So, sometime, and then I think whoever shot the free throw, I think missed the free throw. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, that was a fine tech. Totally okay with that. I almost would have preferred Mike Brown, who has not gotten many techs this year for the Knicks as a Knicks head coach. He's been someone that's gotten techs with other teams. I would almost prefer him just getting teed up in this game. Like, go crazy over one of these calls. Let the refs know, hey, we're not going to keep taking this crap. You're going to have to call the game even. He was talking to the refs all night, but not in any demonstrative ways. Maybe that's going to be his next step, where if the Knicks don't get some calls in the next game, maybe that's plan B, is maybe I go crazy, I go ballistic, and get into the refs' face and kind of try to rile them a little bit. But that's an interesting strategy they took. It was a big part of the game. I mean, there was no question. The Knicks were in the penalty almost immediately. Mike Breen was excellent on the broadcast, as he always is. He's the GOAT. But like he's saying, man, it's less than a minute. Knicks have 2 team fouls. Less than 3 minutes. Knicks have 3 fouls. It's 8 minutes left in this game, and now they're in the bonus. Like, those are huge plays, right? And that was a huge part of this game where the Spurs can challenge a play in the fourth quarter, and because it was a foul, it wasn't like it wasn't a foul, but they challenged play in the fourth quarter, and that an out of bounds play that's going to your ball turns into free throws for Wemby. Like, so how a game is called is crucial. So it's a double-edged sword. It's a dicey thing to roll. I'm curious to see how the next game gets officiated for Game 4 on Wednesday, but this was no question a game that was a big part of this. Like I mentioned before, Mike Brown didn't just also talk about the fact that he was upset with the officiating in this game. He also wanted to make note that despite the officiating, the Spurs played much better than the Knicks, and that was a problem.
There were opportunities for fouls to be called to at least try to even the free throws out. Now, we didn't play good. San Antonio played great. We could have played better. There were a lot of things that we didn't do that we did in game 1 and game 2. But to go 24 free throw attempts in a second half, that's 48 for the game if you think about it the way that they called that second half, compared to 8. All the shots we took, we got fouled 4 times, roughly, for 8 free throw attempts. Again, I don't complain much. I never thought I'd see that in an NBA Finals game.
But that is what we saw. And again, it's going to be the story moving forward in this less than 48-hour period before we get to game number 4 in this series. When you talk about what went wrong for the Knicks, Mike Brown said that it started with, like I said earlier, San Antonio setting the tone and the Knicks not doing what they needed to do on the defensive end.
I thought that San Antonio, they hit first at the beginning of the game, and they hit first at halftime. They hit first at the beginning of the game, and they hit first at halftime. Their level of physicality was great tonight for them. Our attention to detail on both ends of the floor wasn't great. We allowed them to live in our paint. Castle got to the paint at will. Almost every pick and roll he played. Not only that, we talked about taking away the vertical threat of Wemby. He had probably 7 lob dunks because we didn't follow attention to detail in trying to take that away.
Yeah, I thought the Knicks' defense, especially to start this game, I thought was just not good. I didn't think that the intensity was there. I didn't think that they were getting into people. I agree with Mike Brown. I thought that Stephen Castle lived in the paint and was getting all the way to the rim without much resistance. And this was not the way to set the tone for this series. I mean, the Spurs, and we talk about the 2 big quarters. Ironically, even though we talk about this being a fourth quarter game, they beat the Knicks by 11 in the first. They beat them by 8 in the third. In both those quarters, talking about 33 points allowed in the first quarter, 35 points allowed in the third quarter. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. And it's one of those things where I think I just felt like the attention to detail wasn't there. Like, I think he's right. Like, I just felt like they were blowing pick and roll coverages left and right. They were blowing switches left and right. Like, it just, and it's something that I talked about coming into this game, where I the one thing I worried about with the Knicks coming into this game 3 was I felt like in the previous series when they went up 2-0, I thought it was actually really great for the team to go on the road. Like, I thought that was a perfect time to go on the road. The hysteria happening in New York City, the excitement, all the stuff that comes with that, you get away. And you get on the road, and yeah, there's a lot of Knicks fans there, as we know, and they were supportive there, but it's still a us against them mentality, us versus the world mentality that you can bunker in. So coming back home, and then you add all the extra that comes with the president's visit that we've learned now ended up causing all these different issues and different complications. I worried that how the team would start. I really did. I worried like how the team going to start. They come out a little tight, or they're going to come out a little sleepy, whatever. And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. They just did not come out really firing on all cylinders. They were extremely sloppy in this game. Mike Brown also talked about the struggles offensively, but I just thought that they just didn't have the right approach coming in, and the Spurs were playing for their lives, so you knew they were going to come and play hard, and they allowed the Spurs to get a lot of confidence in this game. There's no doubt about that. Here is Mike Brown talking about the offense, because I thought that this was particularly while the defense was terrible. They allowed Wemby to get way too many early touches into the paint. The big thing we've heard all series, all playoffs by Wemby, is you can't allow him to get, like Mike Brown said, lob dunks, catches underneath the rim, or catches in the paint. Like, you got to make him catch the ball 25, 30 feet out, because he's more than willing to operate out there. As talented as he is, you have a shot to guard him out there. You have no shot if you're guarding him on lobs where he's behind you or he's sealing you right underneath the basket. You have no shot to guard him there. And the Knicks allowed him to get there too often. So defense was porous. Offense was terrible too. Here was Mike Brown on what was wrong on offense.
Offensively, we were about as stagnant as I've seen us all year, which helped with the 13 turnovers. If you're in an NBA Finals game and you have 13 turnovers to their 8, and on those 13 turnovers, they generated 21 points, and on their 8 turnovers, we generated 7, it's going to be tough. The turnover situation, the free throw situation, and our attention to detail about keeping them out the paint and taking away the vertical threat, not good tonight.
Yeah, and the 13 turnovers, it felt like more. Like, when he said it was 13, I was like, really? I thought they had 18 or 19, because it felt like they had a million, and it felt like they were, like, back-breaking turnovers, too, and they were, like, silly. It was throwing the balls to guys who aren't there, dribbling into triple teams and double teams. It was really not only, yes, the Spurs play great defense. They're going to cause you into some turnovers because of their ball pressure, because they harass you. But it also seemed like the Knicks kind of worked their way into some turnovers that just shouldn't have happened. And were, again, either being sped up or overly aggressive, and their process offensively was terrible. And, you know, this was the last sound from Mike Brown I want you to hear, because he got specific about what he thought was wrong about the offense, and it's something that I think most Knicks fans probably would agree with.
We just wanted to stand and watch one guy dribble a ton. And then when the ball got passed, there were no quick decisions by the guy receiving the basketball. You know, so we have actions we can get into that we didn't do a good job of getting into, first of all, but it's okay, because you're not going to be able to run plays all the time, especially with how physical they are playing defensively. Sometimes you just got to go by guys, but you got to be smart. You got to take care of the basketball. You got to space right. You got to move the ball. You got to move bodies, and we've done that, you know, quite a bit, and we didn't do a good job of it tonight.
And I think that's where I kind of want to land when it comes to talking about the offense, because I feel like, you know, this was Jalen Brunson's best game of the finals. He had 32 points. He was 11 for 25. He kind of got cold in some rough stretches, like third, fourth quarter, which didn't allow the Knicks to kind of be close enough to be in striking distance to, like, actually take the game over and try to find a way to walk him down and come back. But this was his best scoring performance. But he had 5 turnovers himself. And I think what we saw out of this Knicks offense was it felt a lot more, quite frankly, like the team that we saw last year and the year before that and the year before that, where it was a lot of Jalen Brunson or bust. And it was Jalen Brunson dribbling against extremely tough physical defenders. It felt like I was watching him going up against Castle. It felt like I was watching him versus Aaron Nesmith again, him hounding him 94 feet. Like, where was the Karl-Anthony Towns high post stuff? Where was Karl-Anthony Towns? And I don't really blame him for this performance. He was out there, but I just don't feel like the Knicks were really looking for him. Where was Mikal Bridges in this game? Another guy I feel like the Knicks really weren't looking for. It felt like this was going to be the Jalen Brunson show, and like Mike Brown said, that's not always on Jalen Brunson's fault. Like, sometimes I think it is guys aren't actually moving. They're not actually, they're like he said, they're willing to watch one guy dribble until they get into some kind of trouble, and then they try to get into something else. Like, I felt like there were too many instances where other guys were not moving. They weren't running any sets, or they weren't running any kind of actions. But then on Jalen Brunson's side too, he is the point guard, like we talked about all season. He's got to have a feel for the game to know, like, who is getting involved and who isn't. We're smart enough to know now that Karl-Anthony Towns' field goal attempts is not necessarily the way to determine whether or not he's involved. It's more everything else. Like, the fact that he has 10 field goal attempts, okay, that doesn't mean that's a bad game necessarily. 1 assist, that tells me that he is not getting enough touches. Because I feel like with how much attention he brings to the court, there's no way he's, at this point, with how he is playing, he should play 38 minutes a game and get 1 assist. If you're getting 1 assist, he better have taken 20 shots. Like, it's got to be either or. It can't be he's not shooting the ball much and he's not being in a position to actually run the offense and actually make plays. And the reason why I think it's important that they remember what got them here, and we're going to hear from Karl-Anthony Towns in a second. I thought his comments were interesting too, is because of the way this team pressures the ball. They are smart, the Spurs. Obviously, they're a very well-coached team. They're in the NBA Finals. Even when the Knicks decide, you know what, let's let Josh Hart or someone else, bring the ball up the court. The Spurs are just full court pressing. Like, they're not just saying, oh, the guy guarding Brunson is going to pick him up 94 feet. They'll have Vassell pick up Hart full 94 feet. And Hart is obviously not as good a ball handler as Brunson. So even the safety valves of having, like, Hart or Bridges or those other guys bring the ball up the court, it's not as much a safety valve as you think, because those guys are also having to dribble against pressure. It's not Stephon Castle, but if it's Harper, if it's Fox, if it's any of those guys, those other guys are all still quick, athletic, aggressive. Fox has excellent hands. They're all threats. And then now you have your secondary ball handlers trying to orchestrate an offense. It'd be nice. Karl-Anthony Towns is not going to pick the ball up and dribble the ball up 94 feet. But it'd be nice for them to try to get the ball up and then immediately get the ball to him so they can actually start running their stuff, as opposed to running dribble into a lot of drag actions and a lot of pick and roll stuff. Just give the ball to Karl-Anthony Towns and let's see how these guys play off of the ball. Part of me also feels like they may have gotten discouraged from that stuff because of how much the Spurs were grabbing and holding and not allowing the Knicks to move offensively. Maybe that's also why you have Mike Brown making these comments. But you can't give up on it because they're not allowing you to move. You got to still, again, go with what got you here. And they didn't in this game. This Karl-Anthony Towns and his involvement in the offense just kind of became non-existent. And that was a big reason, I think, why they struggled in this one. Now, he didn't have a good second half. He was 1 for 6. He missed his 2 threes. But he is somebody that is so impactful, and we know what he does and how much he flips the court offensively. If you're talking about adjustments for Game 4, that is one of the immediate adjustments. I know Wemby's out there. It's not easy to run stuff with him guarding Karl-Anthony Towns, but you're going to have to still be disciplined in running your offense. And the offense they run now is not the Jalen Brunson isolation offense. It is the Karl-Anthony Towns point center offense. And you can't just, every series is different. You can't just play the same way every series, but you can't just completely go away from what they've done. And that's what it felt like they did today. I want you to hear from Karl-Anthony Towns because he goes on a lot of reasons of why things didn't go right. But he basically says, he's not trying to hear anything about the officials, which I like. As a player, I don't want to hear anything about the officials. He said nothing about the officials. It's about how they played. And he said they didn't do the things that got them the 13-game win streak.
No, that ain't cost us the game. Turned the ball over, didn't execute, didn't do what got us 13 straight wins in a row. That's how you lose a game. We didn't do what we didn't do for 13. We decided to do something different. It ain't going to work. And throwing the ball away is a clear indication of how you're going to lose a game, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, and when you say what we didn't do what got us those 13 wins, Karl-Anthony Towns is not going to, point to, hey, remember it was me who started being the focal point of dishing the rock and the hub of the offense. That's what got us. That's what got them the 13 wins. If you ask anybody what was the turning point, that was the turning point. He doesn't use those words to say, hey, I didn't get enough touches or I didn't get the offense ran through me enough. But when you hear things like we didn't do what got us 13 wins and we turned the ball over, well, he wasn't the one that had the rock to turn the ball over. In fact, he only had 1 turnover in the second half, so you can't blame him for the turnovers. They only had 2 for the game. Jalen Brunson was one who had the 5 turnovers. Who else had a high turnover game? Brunson obviously had the most. No one else really had a super high turnover game. So, I mean, right, whether he means to or not, if you're talking about we didn't do what got us here, and we're talking about turnovers being an issue, and the point guard has 5 turnovers, and what got you here was you running the offense more. It sounds to me like you're saying that the Brunson Hero Ball thing, that's not going to win. That's not going to get us a championship. And he's not wrong. He's right to say that. Now, he didn't go out and just blast Brunson the way he could have, but you hear Karl-Anthony Towns say this. You hear Mike Brown's comments about, we seem to be content in watching one guy dribble. Well, again, who's the guy that's dribbling the most in this team? It's Jalen Brunson. So clearly, as a team, there are some issues, I think, with how Jalen Brunson was running the offense, even though he scored the ball much better. I think maybe for him, he probably felt he was scoring the ball better. He probably felt better seeing this defense and knowing where he can get his shots. And that maybe got him some tunnel vision. And as far as scoring points, he scored a lot of points. Did he play well? I think is kind of murky. I won't say he played poorly, but definitely didn't play well enough to win. That's for damn sure. Again, OG Anunoby really is the only guy. And Josh Hart. I thought Josh Hart had a great game. He had 16, made 4 threes, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. I mean, this was your typical Josh Hart game. They just really didn't get enough. Nothing from Bridges, not enough from Towns. And this was Landry Shamet's probably worst game of the playoffs. 1 for 8, 1 for 7 from 3. He's been automatic shooting the ball, but Spurs were not. He had some good looks that he missed, but overall, Spurs were not going to allow Landry Shamet to, go on the shooting expedition he had been on pretty much for much of this postseason so far. And I want to point out something else too. I mean, looking at this box score, I mean, only 9 minutes for Deuce McBride and 0 points. I mean, Deuce McBride, he's not had a great finals. Let's just call it like it is. He's not had a great finals. He's not really made that much of an impact. And in a game like this where you need not just his offense, but also his defense, his ability to get into the ball and pressure the ball, him only being able to give you 9 minutes, and that was the right move. Like, Clarkson gave them more. Shamet didn't play well, but Shamet has been the better player. He's been the better shooter. Not having Deuce to go out there and give you some ball pressure with his shot making, that's another big thing that's missing on this team right now. So this series is very live. Like, this was the game, right? This was the game that was going to determine, are the Knicks going to waltz to a title, whether it's in a sweep or a gentleman's sweep or something like that, or is this going to be a series? It doesn't mean it won't be a gentleman's sweep, but it is a series now. Like this, you now come into a game 4 at home that's going to be, a huge game, and the Garden crowd today, I felt like was definitely ready to cheer and ready to be boisterous, ready to be loud, ready to get into it. The team didn't allow them to do that. You're probably going to enter into game 4 while the security measures will be much lighter, and the hoopla will be much lighter. Still, you're probably entering game 4 in front of a much more nervous crowd. That's just the reality and the truth, probably. And it's going to be up to the Knicks, I think, in the game 4 to make sure they get off to a much, much better start to get that crowd pumping, because, they went home sad today. They went home disappointed for the first time since April. This team has not lost a game since the NFL draft. So now they know the magnitude of game 4. If you lose this game, you've now lost home court advantage, and now it's best of 3, 2 games in San Antonio. It's not like the Knicks can't win in San Antonio, but you're now also talking about a massive momentum shift. So a huge, huge, huge game 4 coming up with this game. Also, I want you to hear from Karl-Anthony Towns here, because he was asked about the fans and how they responded to game 3, this being the first home game for an NBA Finals game since '99, the extra measures with all the stuff with President Trump appearing, and I do want to mention that in a second. Here was Karl-Anthony Towns talking about what he thought from the fans. He said that they brought it. It was the team that didn't do their job.
Of course, our fans brought it. They always do. Of course, they lived up to the expectations, exceeded them. We didn't do our job to give them something to cheer for after the game. And that nothing has to do with us stepping on that court and executing and being disciplined in our game plan approach.
So, yeah, and first of all, he's right. Like, I thought the crowd was great, and I thought that when that second quarter was going, I mean, the crowd was as loud as Madison Square Garden can get. It was awesome. And then that starts in the third quarter. It was so bad. They had so many turnovers. The crowd's coming back to their seats, and all of a sudden the game is tied or they're losing. And the crowd never really was able to get back into it because the Knicks didn't give them a reason to, because they didn't play well. So let's get to the elephant in the room, which is Donald Trump's appearance at this game. He's the first sitting president to attend an NBA Finals game, first president of any kind to attend an NBA Finals game since Barack Obama did in 2019. That was the Raptors versus the Warriors. James Dolan made a mistake. This was not the move to make at all. We saw some things earlier in the day about how it wasn't just the fans and the media that had these extra security measures they had to go through just to get into the arena. It was also the players. As De'Aaron Fox mentioned, he was like, I've never been through this kind of security before for a game. And they just played 2 NBA Finals games. So it's not like he's not used to playing in the NBA Finals at this point. Now he knows whatever those parameters are. I saw a video of Victor Wembanyama, or a picture, where it looked like they were giving him like the metal detector thing where you like do the zoom with the little bar over a body. A guy who's wearing a practice uniform. And I'm like, what is this? What are we doing here? And President Trump was there. He was greeted with very loud boos, which is not surprising given how New York City feels about him. This was a massive... Do I want to say massive mistake? It was a mistake. I don't know if it was a massive mistake, but it was definitely a mistake. Number one, when your team is playing this well and everything is going so swimmingly and so smoothly, why you'd want to insert anything extra into the sphere of what was all that was good with the Knicks. And when you're talking about extra, you're talking about something like the president coming, and we can talk about how divisive he is or whatever, and that's not... I don't really care so much about that when we're talking about the Knicks and basketball. Just the distraction and just the extra measures that had to go into place. It just puts everybody out of their rhythm. It puts everybody thinking about something potentially other than basketball. For who? For what? Like what was accomplished by having President Trump there? Like, I don't think that this is something that we're going to say that, in the annals of history, we're always going to talk about President Trump having appeared at the Knicks NBA Finals game. I just don't think it's going to matter. I don't think it's going to matter to the Knicks organization in terms of their legacy. I don't think it's going to matter to any of the players. I mean, I don't know about any. I can't speak to anybody. But I think for the majority of the team, I don't think it's going to matter. And you also created this environment now where it was like, well, if the Knicks lose, well, now we know what we could point something to. And that why would you even want to bring that into the conversation? It just was it was not a great move. It was not a great move. It only brought negativity to the game. He got booed by the crowd very loudly twice that I saw. I don't know if there were any other times they showed him. Why do you want to bring a negative element? Even if the president doesn't mean to be negative or present anything negative, why do you want to bring a potentially negative element to everything you have that's been so positive? I just don't understand. And they lost this game. I don't know if I want to put it on President Trump, but the fact that we even have to ask, well, did all the extra security, all the extra things that went into this game, did any of that stuff maybe in any way impact the game? If any chance the answer is yes, the fact that we're even asking that question to me means you screwed up. Means you should not. It means it wasn't worth it. Means you shouldn't have done it. This is the NBA Finals. This is not a regular season game. This is not the NBA Cup. This is the freaking NBA Finals. You're trying to win the NBA championship for the first time in 53 years. This was just was not worth it. And I don't know. It could have been just James Dolan making his own decision. I don't know if he was advised by anybody or he sought counsel from anybody, but whoever told him that this was a good idea or that they should go through with this, fire them. Like, I'm serious. Like, they probably shouldn't really be around. And maybe fire them is harsh, but at the very least, put them on the back burner for any new ideas. Like, they should be the last person you're asking. Maybe keep their job. I don't want anybody losing their job. But keep them in the back burner for any new ideas. Because the inconvenience, and we're talking about just from the fan standpoint, this is the hottest ticket ever in New York City. And we know the prices are high. I don't even want to complain about the prices being high because it's par for the course with this team and this organization and this city. It just is what it is. But what we've seen is people having an opportunity to still feel like they're a part of this playoff movement and a part of this run by these watch parties that have there been some negative elements about them? Certainly. But overall, still, it's been a net positive for the Knicks. And I think that is an important kind of like thank you to your fans. Thank you to the folks that have been riding with you throughout this entire time. Say, okay, yes, I'm going to try to get this bread. I'm not going to, no, you can't get into the arena for just $200. Like, that's not how this is going to go this time around. But we're going to still allow you to be a part of this by allowing you to watch the game right outside the Garden and cheer and be as loud as possible and then party after the game. You remove that too? So for one person who we say is quote unquote a Knicks fan, he has been at Knicks games, sure. It is the biggest game in Knicks history, or at least again in 50-something years, and the guy's asleep. Like I mean, like what are we doing? Like what? It just James Dolan has done a phenomenal job running the New York Knicks for the past 6 years. Hiring Leon Rose, what the team has done. People wanted to blame him for firing Tiz. Well, he seemed like he made the right decision to fire Tiz if it was his decision. Like, he's done a great job. I'm not gonna sit here and try to pretend, because like what I don't like is like people like it seemed like they kept trying to find ways to turn James Dolan into a villain. So it's like, let's talk about some surveillance thing. Let's talk about like things that like doesn't freaking matter. They made playoffs. Like no one gives a crap. Like he gave him a reason. Like he gave him a reason, and like now you became part of the story. Trump became part of the story. Players are having to be asked about it. They have to go through extra security for this game. That's unnecessary. Fans are being displaced from being outside the Garden. Who did this serve? Who did this serve? Who did this unite? Like everybody hated it. He got booed. It just was a wet fart. It was a terrible decision. And did it cost in this game? I don't know. I firmly believe you could talk about Jalen Brunson isolation ball. We could talk about fouls. We could talk about Stephen Castle's performance. There's a lot of things we could talk about before we get to saying maybe Trump's presence was a factor. I prefer to talk about things that happened on the court. But I mean, this was not the move at all. And also, by the way, you also kind of I know they say he's friends with Trump, and now you set your boy up, because if the Knicks somehow lose this series, you know what they're going to say. They're going to say everything was great until you brought the president here, and now they're going to blame the president for everything that happens after this, especially now that they've lost. And that's supposed to be your friend. Why would you do that? This is sports. Anything can happen. You're not guaranteed to win. So I don't know. It just, I hated to have to even talk about it, but I felt like I'd be remiss not to talk about the elephant in the room that was President Trump's presence there. And you see the security lines for the game. I mean, it was insane. I saw people saying it looked like Hell in the Cell, looked like Elimination Chamber, or looked like War Games. If you're a wrestling fan, you get all those references. Like, I've never seen the Garden look like that. Again, it all kind of seemed unnecessary, but I don't know. I'm not a security expert, so maybe it was. The Madison Square Garden security typically is usually on 10 anyway. So I was like, there needs to be a fence literally around 4 blocks in order to, like, I didn't know. I didn't get it. I really didn't get it. But that was what was happening away from the basketball. When it comes to the actual game, I want you guys to hear from Josh Hart, because he also talked about what went into this Knicks loss. He said that the Spurs coming out with desperation with their season on the line was appropriate and made sense. The Knicks should have matched it better.
No, it doesn't surprise us at all. They were down 2-0. You knew they were going to come out with a sense of urgency and a sense of desperation. We should have started the game off better. We should have started the third quarter off better. So, back to 0-0. We're going to learn tomorrow, watch film, and prepare for the game on Thursday.
Yeah, and listen, the credit to Spurs, man. Like, and I picked the Knicks to win the series in 6 games. So I did not expect a sweep. I did not expect this to be easy. And listen, when they win 2 games on the road, it does kind of make you wonder, like, oh man, maybe this would be once again a lot easier than we expected, just like the last 2 series. But this is a very good team. This is clearly the teams that are better than the teams the Knicks face in the Eastern Conference. So it's going to be up to the Knicks to once again find that desperation, find that 0-0 attitude, that motto that they've been using throughout this entire playoffs. They're going to have to find it because, again, now you have a Spurs team that's going to be playing with a lot more confidence. Some of these bad games that they survived in this one, again, and I struggle to even say bad games because Fox had a bad game, but he made big shots, and he had 8 assists and only 2 turnovers. Again, Harper had a bad game, but he had 9 rebounds to go with 13 points, even though he was 5 for 18. He can't find his 3 ball. He's got to stop shooting threes. In fact, that's the one thing defensively. There were a couple of times, or at least one time I remember off the top of my head, where guys are rotating off of Champagnie to run to Dylan Harper, and I'm like, why? The guy, he can't make threes. It's the only thing he can't do. Offensively, he can get to the rim, it feels like, anytime he wants. Anytime he is shooting a 3, that is a W for the Knicks. They need to stop closing out on him like he's Reggie Miller. I don't know what they were doing. He was 1 for 8 in this game. He only made, I think he was 1 for 4 the last game. I think he made none in the first game. He's not a good 3-point shooter. He's not. If he's making threes, you're going to lose. You got to just live with that. And they made a couple, again, just to talk about the attention to detail. Again, one, they definitely left him for Champagnie. I think one, they left him for Castle. I mean, not Castle. Vassell, who's a knockdown shooter. And Vassell was great. He only was 3 for 4, but he's 3 for 4 from 3. He played great defense, 11 points. You get 11 points and 4 shots. That's extremely efficient. Like that was a problem. Again, the lack of attention to detail. But again, I mentioned again, quote unquote bad games. Fox and Harper were able to impact the games in other ways. Harper's rebounding was awesome. There were plenty of times, a couple of times, where I thought Josh Hart making those extra efforts, flying in, he's gonna get the ball, and Harper was just matching his energy and his quickness. And Harper's more athletic, so he's able to get the ball. I was like, oof, that's a great rebound. So he found a way still to make an impact, even when he was not able to find a shot necessarily. So if you're looking at Game 4, you gotta expect that Harper or Fox, these guys are gonna now play with more confidence. Like the Knicks, they have not played their A game still in this series. I would think that they're gonna have to play their A game to win this next game. Like I don't think they can do Jalen Brunson shot 6 for 20 and we won, or we were down 15, 16 points and we won. Like they can't do that anymore. Like the Spurs now have a golden opportunity to basically make this series even and shift the momentum back towards them. So you're gonna find a Spurs, and now they are comfortable playing at Madison Square Garden. They won a game there. They played there. They know what to expect. They went there in one of the weirdest kind of games possible because of all the extra stuff, and they still won. So the Spurs team you're gonna see in the next game, I expect to be just as aggressive, just as intense, just as focused. Knicks are gonna have to match that focus and that intensity. I would love to see if we can get maybe something from Cap before we get out of here. I'm trying to see if I can find any sound from him. I've not seen anything. I know he definitely spoke. Yeah, so Jalen Brunson. Let me see if I can get you guys to hear from Jalen Brunson here. So this obviously, again, was the best scoring performance of Jalen Brunson in this series. But again, I pause to say this was a good game from Jalen Brunson because of the turnovers. It wasn't the most efficient game, though. He shot 44%, which is fine, I guess. And it was a loss, which is for him, that's the thing that he will care about the most, and why he probably wouldn't say it was a great game. Here was Jalen Brunson in talking about what the Knicks can learn from this being their first loss since April.
You guys have not lost a game in quite some time, and there's nothing good about losing a game. How do you take this feeling, put it in a box, and put it towards Game 4?
I think win or lose as a team, our mindset is always getting better the next day. And so we've done our best to try and learn from wins over the past couple of weeks. But now we have to learn from a loss. But I think the most important thing is that we were going to learn regardless, because we know there were things that we were going to have to improve on going into next game. So mindset stays the same.
And that's something that we haven't had to talk about in a while, is how the Knicks bounce back from a loss. Like they have not had to bounce back from a loss in a month and a half. So we've seen them do it before. So I'm not going to say that I don't think they can do it, but it is going to be something to watch in terms of how this team bounces back and how they're able to respond to what was a tough loss, right? This was definitely a tough loss. You don't panic or go crazy because again they are up in the series, but this was definitely a tough loss for them, and they're definitely gonna have to rebound, and it's gonna in many ways start with Brunson, and it's gonna start with him. I think he also. It'd be nice for him to get off to a better start in some of these games. Like, it feels like he's kind of been chasing, in all of these games, it feels like he's kind of been chasing the box score. And I don't mean that, like, literally, where, like, he's like, I'm not shooting well, I gotta get my stats up. He's not literally doing that, of course. I would never accuse him of that. But I'm saying, like, if you're following his game, like, he started this game 2 for 7 in the first quarter. He was 28%. And they were in the hole, right? They were minus level to him on the court in that first quarter, and the offense actually ended up running much better when Jose Alvarado came into the game. So it would be nice, and then he got really going in the third quarter, in the second quarter. It would really would be nice if he could get off to a good first quarter. He's been the best first quarter player basically in the NBA for the last several years, which has been ironic because he's also the best fourth quarter player in the NBA. But he's usually money in the first quarter, and perhaps it's just the defense being so locked in. And when you think about defense, you think about game plans. A team comes in, you're going to be most in tune to the game plan in the first few minutes, in the first quarter, because you just heard it in the locker room 20 minutes before. So you don't forget it. You're not tired. So you have energy to actually try to execute your defensive game plan and the scouting report and understanding the scouting report. The slippage comes as the game moves on. So now Brunson's been able to flout that for most of his career, but he's not in this series. Every first quarter, he's been terrible. It would be nice for Game 4, as we shift gears to that Game 4. It'd be nice if he could find a way to get off to a much better start in the first quarter, because I think that also has been kind of putting them a little bit behind the 8 ball in these games, because he's trying to get going initially, and he's not getting going, which means no one else is getting involved, because he took 7 shots in this first quarter, I'm sorry. No one else is taking more than 2 or 3. It puts the team behind the 8 ball. And maybe it means him not trying to be super aggressive in the first quarter. Like, maybe it means, like, I think about Donovan Mitchell had a game. Was it the Knicks game? I forgot what game it was. It might have been, or maybe it was against Cleveland, or maybe it was against Detroit. We had a game in the last series. The last series or the series they played against Detroit, where, like, he really didn't shoot much in the first quarter, in the first half, really. But, like, Jared Allen was great, and Mobley was great. All these other guys were making impact plays, and then he took over in the second half. And a lot of, like, the guys said that they, like, the fact that Donovan Mitchell, like, allowed the guys to get involved helped the rest of the team, because they got in the rhythm early, and then he knew when to get his. I kind of want to maybe see that from Jalen Brunson in this next game. I want to see Jalen Brunson maybe not being, listen, if they're going to allow you to play one-on-one, they're going to allow you to not play in the crowd, then be aggressive, don't be stupid. But if they're going to continue to try to take you away, let's see, again, Mikal Bridges, who was so big, he can't have another game where he has 2 points. Let's see Mikal Bridges get some good looks. Let's get Karl-Anthony Towns to run this offense. Maybe Karl-Anthony Towns will open you up a little bit. Again, let's get back to what the team was doing before, when they were bludgeoning teams, instead of what they've kind of been bogged down into. Mike Brown saying that this has been, about as sluggish and as stagnant offensively as the team has looked all season. He's right. He's right. And this has really pretty much been all 3 games. Like, they've won all 3 games. And it's NBA Finals, so it's not going to be an up and down, run up and down, shoot, open kind of court kind of game. That's just not how the games are ever going to be. But it shouldn't be this much of a struggle. And I think some of that, again, comes from this multitude of reasons. Again, I point out the refereeing is definitely a part of it. But also, there got to be a willingness. There got to be a willingness to be disciplined and to be patient, too. Because it's easy, I think, when you have such a guy like Brunson who's so talented, I think sometimes patience can be tough, because you're like, you know what, like, oh man, this ain't working. Let's just get the ball to Brunson. Like, we know he can get his, and let's go. Like, okay, couple 2-3 possessions down. Okay, maybe they're still grabbing, they're holding, not calling it. But maybe the fourth possession, okay, they call a foul. Okay, maybe the fourth possession, okay, they blow coverage. Like, I think the Knicks during that 13-game win streak, and really I'm talking about the first 11 wins more so, they showed great patience on their offense. It's patience that they've lacked because of just what the Spurs have done to them. So, man, this is going to be a huge game 4. It's going to be a Garden crowd that's going to be very different. And I think it is imperative for the Knicks to get off to a good start. If they get off to another start where they're down 10, 11 points in the first quarter, it's just going to be another struggle bus kind of game. And I'm tired of seeing it. Like, I'm tired of seeing the team having to try to come back and be down 13 points in the first half to try to win the game. Like, they're making the game harder on themselves than it has to be. Keep the game close in the first half. Don't allow them to just jump out on you so aggressively. And when it comes to Wembanyama, and I want to say this on Wemby too, who was phenomenal. Wemby was awesome. It was a bounce back game for him. He was aggressive. He knew where to attack. He was much better at getting established in the paint. He did that early in the game. Once that happened, then the jump shot started to flow. It was just an all-around great game for him. The shot blocking was there. This was Wemby kind of at his best. With that being said, this dirty crap he's getting away with, it's got to stop. And if I'm the Knicks, this team never does this. So maybe I'm just speaking to a wall. Somebody needs to blow Wemby the F up on a cut or on a box out or something. Somebody just got to send a message that, like, because that we're not going to continue to be pushed around. Because you had game 2 where he's ragdolling Alvarado on a box out unnecessarily. Should have been at least a foul, maybe a flagrant. This game, I don't even know why, because I didn't really think Brunson really did all that much. But Brunson, I guess, is just bodying him away from the ball like every play was. And I mean, he behind Brunson's back, just like with his big ass hand, just like almost like the great Khali, we used to smash people's heads, just like shoves Brunson's neck basically into the ground. And again, these referees, what are you doing? Like, are you watching the effing game? Like, hello. And Brunson, like, literally almost kind of stopped playing and just started walking Wemby down, being like, yo, don't do that again, and there's going to be a problem. And Wemby's laughing at him. And I'm sure this is a play. First of all, to me, that's a play. I think they can give retroactive flagrants or retroactive fines. Like, he should be fined for that. That's ridiculous. That's a flagrant foul. 100%. And this is a team I've said, and so many other Knicks fans, because of other things that happened, Trae Young rolling the dice on the floor, Draymond Green being an idiot. Like, there's been other reasons why people have said, hey, Knicks got to, maybe push the envelope to kind of show they're not going to be pushed around. And they've done nothing. That's just not how the team is operated. I hope maybe the NBA Finals is something different. I don't want them to hurt Wemby. I don't want them to do anything that's going to put him in jeopardy or anything like that. But him putting his hands on Cap like that is crazy. Like, that should be the thing. Okay, you don't want to stop Draymond from tripping Cat. Okay, you don't care that Trae Young is rolling dice on the court after an NBA Cup quarterfinal game. Okay, fine. Those things are understandable in a weird way because it's the regular season. Him putting his hands on Cap should be enough for throw Jeremy Sohan out there or Mitchell Robinson. Somebody should be send him a message, and I think it will also send a message to just the Spurs that all of this like tough guy physical crap is not going to be put up with. And that's what, when Josh Hart talking about, they didn't match that intensity and that physicality and that desperation. Like, the Spurs, this is what Wemby does. Wemby's got a little Embiid in him, where, like, if he's kind of back against the wall, he will pull out any stop to try to get a win or try to get an edge. We saw when they were getting their ass kicked by the Thunder in Game 5, and he didn't want to talk to no media after the game, probably because he didn't want to answer for what he told Biyombo and Olynyk to do, or whoever was Plumlee. And he's coming off the court after McCain is, shooting and twerking and dancing, because we know how McCain is on the Thunder. And he whispered something to Biyombo and to Plumlee. In the next 2 plays, these guys basically clothesline McCain. And guess what? It sent the message. McCain was terrible in Game 6, and he was not the same in Game 7. Like, Wemby has that in him where he like, oh, I'm back against the wall. I don't like when things are going. All right, we got to pull out all the stops. That means getting a little physical, maybe even getting a little dirty. I'm willing to do that. Knicks got to be willing to be just as dirty and physical as him. That's just the reality. This is the freaking NBA Finals, and somebody on that court. And by the way, you had Carter Bryant blowing up Brunson in the last game. You had Stephen Castle blowing up Brunson in this game. They didn't call it flagrant because they said that he didn't wind up and extend. When I'm like, yeah, but he's running 100 miles an hour through a guy boxing out. Like, I don't like. Yes, there's an idea about wind-ups and force and stuff, but if you're not, like, I think Legler made the good point, or maybe it was definitely Richard Jefferson. It's like, okay, there's no wind-up and stuff, but the wind-up is him running in full speed. Like, that's not a basketball play. Like, what are you doing for a guy who's got you in position, and you just run through him? Like, I remember Kenny Martin got suspended in the regular season because of a play like that, where he just ran through a screen, and he literally just 100% just, like, trucked some guy. Like, I remember this was like when he was getting all these flagrant fouls. This had to be like 2001 or 2000. Well, it couldn't have been 2002. Actually, it might have been because he was wild in there too. It was either 01 or 02 when he was getting all these flagrants. And it was a similar play with it. He just runs him over. Cap took a lot of punishment in this game, and a lot of it, the Wemby play was just dirty. There was no other. The Castle play was borderline. The Wemby play was absolutely dirty. And they threw in Sohan for one play. I wouldn't like. I'd throw him in again for a play or two, and maybe tell him, hey, when he goes across the paint, let him know where he's at. And that's will they do it? I highly doubt it, but it is an aspect of his game that if we're talking about facing the league and stuff, like we gotta talk about that stuff too. Like what he did to Brunson was dirty, just like him elbowing Nas Reed was dirty. Like, he's doing this stuff that's starting to, in my opinion, create a reputation if he's going to continue this. And it's up to the Knicks, I think, because forget about even just him just feeling comfortable, feeling he can do whatever he wants. Again, it's the captain. It's Jalen Brunson. He cannot be touched. It's like in hockey when someone tries to touch Wayne Gretzky. You got to have somebody ready to just fight and get suspended. That's just somebody else. He's got to be ready to do that. Like it's a similar thing. I don't want anybody to get into a fight, but okay, they feel like if Wemby feels that emboldened to do that to Jalen Brunson, then someone should be very emboldened to maybe give Wemby an elbow in the chest and see how that feels, and then let him know that just like you can't elbow and do crazy stuff to what's the name will do crazy stuff to you, then you're gonna be able to do that to Jalen Brunson. So I do want to put that out there. But Wemby did have a great game. Again, along with Stephon Castle, who had the best game, again, arguably of his career. Knicks lose 115-111. Series now will shift to what is a absolutely pivotal game for Wednesday night, 8:30 at Madison Square Garden. Crowd was fine. The crowd, I mentioned I was worried about all the extra security and whether or not the crowd would come in sleepy, not engaged, kind of a little bit dazed. It's also a later start. Like these are 8:30 games. I didn't know how they would. I didn't know what would happen, and they were great. As Carlton said, they absolutely brought it. So hopefully, even though they just came off of a loss, hopefully the crowd not having to deal with any of that nonsense will come in with the right energy, right attitude. But again, it's gonna be up to the Knicks to absolutely get off to a much better start in this one. Do not have this game be a situation where you're playing down from 11, 12, 13 points again. They got to get out of that. I want to see a lot more ball movement. I want to see a lot more Jalen Brunson, maybe allowing Charlie Towns to run a lot more of the offense. Those would be some of the keys I feel like in this game. I also thought there were some stretches. Mike Brown got a little afraid of playing Mitch when they were in the bonus. And there was he didn't play, I think, the entire second quarter. Because of how the foul situation went, which I thought was a little weird. He's not a good free throw shooter. We know that to be the truth. And the Knicks did actually get some good bones out of that small ball lineup because they ended up going up, plus 18 in that whole quarter. So that ended up being a huge stretch where they didn't play Mitchell Robinson at all. But then I also kind of felt like he never got into the rhythm of the game. So I think that Mike Brown's got to be a little more careful. Like, Mitchell Robinson can't shoot free throws. I get that, but I don't know if I want him not playing an entire quarter of a game because of the foul situation. And so hopefully Mitchell Robinson can come back in the next game, have a much bigger impact in Game 4, because I do think he is important. He's important to guard Wemby, right? Because this was basically all Karl-Anthony Towns today, and Karl-Anthony Towns, Wemby gave it back to him today. Wemby outplayed him again. I don't think the team did a good job getting him the rock. But I also would love to see Mitchell Robinson also get opportunities to guard Wemby, because he brings another physical big body that can body him up a little bit, wear him down. The Knicks did not do a good job of wearing Wemby down at all tonight. He pretty much did whatever he wanted out there. So, Game 4, Wednesday night, we will have another episode of Orange and Blue Bloods talking about Game 4 after the game. That will be posted, the morning after or the night of, how I've been doing this. I've been recording these pretty much after the game ends, and I try to grab as much sound as possible before I start, so you can hear the sound and you have it ready in the morning. So whether you're hearing this late at night or whether hearing it in the morning, appreciate you. Same thing would happen in Game 4. It would be either a late night, early morning episode you can look out for. But if you're enjoying these episodes, man, we really appreciate you stopping by. Of course, if you like this podcast, do me a favor. Number 1, subscribe to the channel, Orange and Blue Bloods. Wherever you get your podcast, just search Orange and Blue Bloods and subscribe to the channel. Hit the auto download feature and give me a 5-star review. Also, if you're watching the podcast, or if you do want to watch the podcast, head over to New Generation Media, NU Generation Media, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, New Generation Media. All episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods live on the New Generation Media YouTube page. So head over to YouTube to catch those episodes that if you want to watch the video versions of these episodes. And also subscribe to me, or rather follow me on X, EJ_Stewart. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok, Action EJ. And follow me on Buzzer, EJ205 Prep. That's going to do it. Sucks to do a Knicks loss. I haven't talked about a Knicks loss on this podcast in a month and a half. And I was like, oh man, do I drag my ass to this chair and do this show, or they'll just wait till the morning? But I was like, you know what, guys, stay consistent. I know the people are going to want to hear this first thing in the morning, so I wanted to get it out to you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sucks that was the way the Knicks had their first finals home game in 26 years. But you know what? They get back at it on Wednesday. Thank you guys for checking me out. And hopefully after Wednesday, we'll be talking about a Knicks W. Let's go, Knicks. I'll talk to you then. Later.